Welcome everybody, this is the World Business Forum and Carly Fiorina, Chairman Carly Fiorina Enterprises, former HP CEO and GOP Republican candidate, is joining us for an interview. Thank you so much for being with us.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So first of all, let me just kick off with what are you going to talk about at this event? What are the major topics and the main message you'd like to spread among the business community here in Milan?
So I'm talking about leadership and how leadership differs from management and how leadership fundamentally is focused on driving positive change and why change is so hard and yet so very necessary for every company regardless of the industry in which that company plays.
And considering that you have a large experience within a tech company, you led HP for I guess 6 years or
Yes.
maybe even more. What's your take on the current difficulties that is witnessing the tech sector? Of course, it's also because of the Fed rates, that's for sure. On the other side, we have non-farm payrolls, which are positive numbers, and we do see tech companies laying off heavily.
Yes. So I think part of what we're seeing is the natural falling back to reality. What I mean by that is when money was free before the Fed started raising rates, the stock market rewarded growth at all costs. And no one was that concerned about profitability. But now, as interest rates rise, people get focused, investors get focused on where does this growth yield profitability. And so I think you're seeing tech companies like Meta, like others, say, you know, I have to get my costs under control because money is expensive now. And that changes every business's calculation.
Let me ask you, do you think that the tech is going to be back on track in the upcoming months in terms of market performance?
Well, I think the tech sector stock prices had to come down. It's a little bit like the dot-com boom. You know, tech valuations were at a level that was not sustainable based on the fundamentals. And so I think what you're seeing now is the tech sector valuations coming back down to earth and people starting to pay attention to the fundamentals, which include not only growth, but are costs under control, and do we see a picture for appropriate profitability?
And in a final take in terms of macroeconomic talk and discussion, what do you foresee for the US economy in 2023? Do you think recession is imminent or there is still a chance for a soft landing?
You know, I think it's a very complicated picture, actually, because interest rates are obviously rising very quickly, and I personally have thought since at least 2021 that the Fed would have to raise rates into 2023, perhaps all of 2023. So, of course, that will cause the economy to slow. On the other hand, employment continues to be very, very strong. There are lots of job openings still. Consumer demand seems to be holding up. And so I'm not an economist, although economists are usually wrong, actually.
Yeah, true.
But I think a soft landing is certainly possible. We will see.
Great. So soft landing is a possibility. And of course, we are witnessing extremely interesting times for the US. Of course, we saw the midterm elections this night here in Europe, of course. Well, the polls or the exit polls are suggesting that the Senate is 48 to 47, 48 Democrats, 47 Republicans. House probably goes to Republicans, 197 so far versus 172 for Democrats. What's your first take? And of course, those are not the definite results.
So my first take is that last night was not the red wave Republicans had been expecting or hoping for. It was not the blue wipeout the Democrats were afraid of. I think it is a reminder that the American people prefer divided government, actually. I think it was a reminder that the House in particular is always sort of a way to punish whoever is in power. I think it is a disappointing night for Trump, and I personally think that is a good thing for the party.
Well, this is very important what you just said. Do you think Trump is going to run for the 2024 presidential elections? And if he's not going to be the leader of the Republican Party, who might be?
So I think Trump absolutely will run. I say that with regret. I am not a Trump fan. I have not been ever. But I think he will run because there's no reason not to. I think he can raise money when he runs. He gets a lot of attention when he runs. He likes attention. And he perhaps believes that running will postpone his legal jeopardy, which is substantial. So I think there's no reason not to run for him. I think he has rivals now. I think Governor DeSantis of Florida is a clear rival. Governor DeSantis won a decisive victory last night in Florida and performed extremely well with Hispanics, with African Americans. So there may be other rivals and as well, but I think Ron DeSantis is a clear rival.
Well, that's very interesting. On the other side, when it comes to Democrats, who do you think might be the next leader? Do you think Joe Biden is going to run once again? Do you think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has any chance? I guess not Bernie Sanders.
Yes. So first, I think the progressive wing of the Democrat Party, Alexandria Cortez, Bernie Sanders, while they have great power within the party, they never win elections, general elections. America is not a progressive country. And so I don't think the Democrats will put either of them up again. I think the Democrats have a very difficult choice. Biden, I don't think, can win again. He's quite old. I think his vice president probably cannot win either. And so the Democrats now have to think about who can we put forward, who can carry the party flag. Perhaps it will be a governor as opposed to someone in Washington, D.C.
You just said something very important, that Americans like divided parliament, right?
Yeah.
So do you think markets like divided parliament?
Yeah,
do you think this is the best case scenario?
Yes.
What we are seeing?
I think, for business, divided government is sort of a best case because the government doesn't do very much. And business in America would rather government leave them alone. It is rare that big moves by government happen between both parties. An exception was the decision to invest heavily in chip technology in the United States. That was a rare case where bipartisan support came together for industrial policy. But most of the time, in divided government, less happens, and businesses like certainty, predictability, and being in charge.
Right, and in final take, do you think Americans are still worried about inflation, or they do trust actually the Fed machine in terms of hiking rates?
Oh, I think Americans are very concerned about inflation, and I think if you looked at the exit polls again, what you would find is inflation and the economy was Americans' number one concern. So I think inflation is exacting a very heavy toll on a lot of Americans, actually. I think many Americans don't really understand the role that the Fed plays, but what they do understand is the cost of bread and the cost of fuel keep going up, and they don't like that.
Absolutely. And you read a book, Difficult Choices, right? This is your
Tough Choices. It's my first book.
Right?
I've written 3, but that was the first one, yes.
And what's the main message that you'd like to spread among your readers with your books in general, but this one in particular because it looks like very suitable to this moment?
So leadership is not about position or title. Everyone is capable of leadership, and there are many people with big positions and titles who don't lead, and then there are people who don't have title who are leading. But leadership is always a choice, and driving change for the better always involves difficult choices, and leaders must have the courage to make those choices and understand that criticism is the price.
Thank you very much, Carly Fiorina, Chairman, Carly Fiorina Enterprises and former HP CEO. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.